the sense that there's this international brotherhood of kings who not only exchange goods and stay in touch with one another, but also intermarry. Amenhotep III, for example, ended up taking brides from Hatti, from Mitanni, cementing those relationships in a kind of Habsburg-esque way, right, through intermarriage and the exchange of goods. So Tushratta, for example, writes to the king of Egypt, Amenhotep III, whose reign name is Nimuria, and so he writes, and you can get a sense of what this correspondence is like. Thus says Tushratta, king of Mitanni, your brother, all is well with me, may all be well with you. With Kuluheba, my sister, may it all be well. With your household, your wives, your sons, your nobles, your warriors, your horses, your chariots, throughout your entire household, may everything be well. When I sat upon my father's throne, I was still young, and Tuli did evil in my land and killed my lord. And therefore, he did not treat me well, nor the one nor those who were on friendly terms with me. I, however, especially because of those evils which were perpetrated on my land, made no delay, but murdered Ashurama, but pursued the murderers of Artushama, my brother, along with all that they had killed. Because you, Nimuria, were friendly with my father, for this reason I reached out and spoke to you, so that you, my brother, might hear of this deed and rejoice. My father loved you, and you loved my father still more. And my father, because of his love, gave my sister to you in marriage. And who else stood with my father as you did? The very next year, we fought the whole land of Hatti together. Right? So Mitanni and Egypt working together to repel the emergence of the Hittites in the north. As the enemy came to my land, my lord came to me and I destroyed him. As the enemy came into my land, you assisted and we destroyed them. And not one of them returned to their own land. So for you, behold, I send you one chariot, 2 horses, a male servant, a female servant, out of the booty of the land of Hatti. And as a gift for my brother, 5 chariots and 5 teams of horses have I sent you. And to Kuluheba, my sister, I've sent 1 set of gold pins, a set of gold earrings, a gold idol, and 1 container of sweet oil. Behold all these things that I have sent, and by all means, dispatch my emissaries quickly so that they may bring word and I may hear of your greeting and rejoice. May my brother seek friendship with me, and may my brother send his messengers so that they bring me greetings and I receive them. He goes on to actually ask for a whole bunch of things too. We'll look at these letters in depth when we talk about Egypt, but later on he'll sort of say, oh, well, since gold is like dust in your land, why don't you send me a few statues? And I miss my sister. Why don't you make a statue in her form so I can remember her? Tushratta is pretty wily in these letters, as we'll see. But it gives you a sense of the type of diplomacy that's happening during this time. This emphasis on prestige, maintaining this elite idea of kingship, this brotherhood, if you will, the ability to send emissaries back and forth. And also interest, right? The idea of getting luxury goods, particularly. So we'll be looking at some of these letters as we explore. I should also mention the importance of Cyprus during this time, known as the Kingdom of Alashia. You'll read in a lot of texts that it's not known where the Kingdom of Alashia is. That's actually now been proven to be Cyprus. There's a lot of theory that it was Cyprus, but petrographic analysis of these tablets that come from Elashia, right? Because these tablets, while they're written in Akkadian, are made in the particular cities that they're coming from, right? So the tablets that show up in Egypt from Babylon are made in Babylon, right? They're sent over. And the clay is different in each one. So there's been an analysis of the letters from Elashia that end up in Egypt, proving actually now that clay came from Cyprus. So the Kingdom of Elashia, which is very important for a number of reasons we'll get to, is definitely Cyprus. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. We're going to be jumping around a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the Hittites first and foremost. We've talked about Mitanni. So let's take a look at the Hittite Empire. We've encountered the Hittites before, right? If you remember, it's the Hittites that destroy Hammurabi's Babylon in 1595. They sort of come out of nowhere. These Indo-Aryan speaking Anatolians come out of nowhere and destroy Babylon. Unfortunately, shortly thereafter, the city of Hattusas, which is the capital, well, actually I should say around the same time, Hatti has this sort of blip. It comes up, destroys the city, and then we don't really hear much about it until around 1350. So again, it emerges around 1500 and then recedes. So we're going to be jumping forward a little bit in terms of talking about Hatti. The city of Hattusas is a major capital of the Hittite Empire. It was destroyed in 1700 by a king named Anita of the Kasura people in the north, right up here. And he actually cursed the city. He said, "At night I took the city of Hattusas by force, and I have sown weeds in its place. Should any king after me attempt to resettle Hattusas, may the weather god strike him down." Well, somebody did resettle Hattusas, and this individual is Shupi Lui Umas the first. I told you these names would be fun to try to remember. Shupi Lui Umas. Let's just break it down, you'll get it. Shupi Lui Umas takes power in around 1350. And in doing so erects the first walls at the city of Hattusas. He's a contemporary of Tushratta and Amenhotep, Amenhotep III, right? That letter that I read is from Tushratta to Amenhotep III. So they're contemporary. Shupi Lui Umas is now emerging in Hatti and causing problems in the north. He fights Anatolian states to the west and the northwest, these little-known people known as the Kashka in the north. He's not quite able to get up to the Black Sea, but this green line represents what Shupi Lui Umas was able to secure as the early Hittite Empire. Shortly after, he moves south into the Levant and into northern Mesopotamia. And as we'll see, along with the assistance of the Assyrians, they're able to actually squeeze Mitanni essentially out of existence. Mitanni falls at the end of the LB2A. So around 1300, Mitanni ceases to exist. But we'll get to that. The Hittite king Shupi Lui Umas engages in all the diplomatic relations that we'd expect from a great king of the region. It's all about being a great king. He is writing letters to Egypt, to Babylon. He marries a Babylonian, the daughter of the Babylonian king. He's even propositioned by the widow of Tutankhamun that now that she doesn't have a husband, because Tutankhamun dies, she writes to him saying, "Oh, perhaps you have a son that you could send to me, because I don't want to marry just anybody. I need to marry someone of royal blood, and I would marry one of your sons." There's a lot of intrigue about this, because apparently he sends the son, and then the son is murdered on his way to Egypt. So there are letters exchanged back and forth. Blame is, throwing around. It's a very, very tense time, especially since Hatti and Egypt are, by the LB2, enemies. Mitanni is now not there anymore. Now it's all about Egypt and Hatti, and we'll explore that. Some of the other rulers, the grandson of Shupi Lui Umas, Hattusili III, he actually ends up deposing his nephew, Mutawali, and sends him into exile. He takes the throne in 1280. And this period, again, this conflict with Egypt, it's Hattusili III that's able to, he ends up fighting Ramses II quite a bit. He ends up forging a peace treaty with Egypt during his reign, which is a huge deal. In fact, there's a copy of that peace treaty at the United Nations. It's one of the earliest, well, the earliest peace treaty known, and it's published both in Egypt, in Hatti, right? Neither of which speak Akkadian, but it's published in Akkadian, right? It's this lingua franca that everyone's using at the time, common diplomatic language, and it's actually printed on gold and silver tablets. It's so renowned. So peace between Egypt and Hatti later on. Again, we're jumping ahead in this period. We're going to be coming back to the LB1 and looking at these things. Hattusili rebuilds Hattusas along with his queen, Puduheba, who is a phenomenally powerful woman in the ancient Near East. She's a Hurrian princess. And together they expand the boundaries of Hatti and build a number of religious institutions. And finally, we have Tudhalias III, who is the son of Hattusili. And it's under his reign that we start to see the weakening and collapse eventually of the Hittite Empire in the first millennium. So I wanted to take a little bit of time, got about 10 minutes here, and let's take a look at the site of Hattusas itself. So Hattusas is near modern Boğazköy, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It was inscribed on the list around 1986. And it's situated, I'll go back to the map for a second, really in a wonderful area to take advantage of some of the local rivers there, the Budaközo River. And it's a strong fortified city. Here's a plan of it from Rofe, around 6 kilometers in length, with towers set at intervals around it. We see it's broken up into 3 main sections. We've got a lower town here. We've got an upper town, right, each separated by interior fortifications, and then finally, right, a citadel with its own series of palaces and its own fortifications. So this is an incredibly well fortified town. It's about 1.8 kilometers square in terms of its size, and probably would have sustained a population of 40 to 50,000 people. So massive. The town gates that lead into this city, there are about nine city gates. We're going to look at 3 of them today: the Lion Gate, the Sphinx Gate, and the King's Gate. And these all lead into the upper town at Hattusas. You can see here some of this imagery too. The style of building in its defensive, it's just massive. This is actually called Cyclopean masonry. That's a term that comes more from the classical world in this period, in the sense that in early mythology you actually have the story of cities like Mycenae being built with the help of the Cyclops, the race of one-eyed monsters that are, in the Odyssey. In this case, right, you can imagine why these massive, massive stones. You can imagine the idea, right, that it might take some superhuman help to build something of this scale. These huge stones that are purpose cut, as you can see, to fit one into the other. Here's a reconstruction of what some of these walls might have looked like at Hattusas, right, with a stone foundation and then a mud brick superstructure and towers dotting the entire perimeter, right, with crenellations that would have protected defenders from attack. Right, archers could fire down onto an attacking population. We also see too that these gates were parabolic. Our first gate we're going to look at again is the Sphinx Gate in the far south. And you can see here the entryway would have been a parabolic entryway. These sphinxes, I should also mention there's an inner gate and an outer gate that would have served to protect the gateway. This is one of the most vulnerable areas of the city. Oops, jumping ahead here. All right, so again, we're looking at the Sphinx Gate. Sorry. You can see how isolated this is. If this area is going to be attacked, if the city is going to be attacked, it will be here. So there's an emphasis on fortifications down here. Right, so here's our Sphinx Gate with these flanking sphinxes. And if you remember, right, we were talking about Alalak flanking lions, right, entryways being flanked by large sculptures that not only serve a decorative purpose, but also an architectural purpose, right? These were built into the entryway